You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. We pretty much survived the peak of Atlantic hurricane season unscathed. That was yesterday, but it might not be much longer after that. This September 11th, we have Tropical Depression 19, which is about to move through the very southern reaches of the Florida Peninsula. We've also got Tropical Storm Paulette and Rene towards the southeast there as well, which is not looking very good. Also, a broad tropical wave down there south of the Cape Verde Islands, which will probably develop into another significant hurricane. In this hour-long show tonight, we'll be talking mainly about those areas of interest. Of course, one is really knocking on the doorstep, along with Tropical Depression 12W in the Western Pacific, although it will probably barely get a footnote considering everything else that's going on. But that is a tropical depression, not far from Tokyo actually, gale advisories in effect for the Itzu Islands. My name is Nathan Foy. I'm joined by our team as always during this hour of discussion. Tonight it's Devon, Ryan, Lucas, Nelson, Euxinada, and Wyatt. Good evening to you all.
Good evening, Nathan.
Good evening.
So we've had a little bit of a recuperation break for the last 2 weeks or so since Laura and the Western Pacific typhoon train that we had. And now the Atlantic revving up again.
Yeah, the Atlantic's really starting to go into full motion here. I mean, we could pretty much just start right off. Hey, we've got 3 active systems at the same time with the Atlantic. Not every year that you go ahead and see that. We've got a couple of fish storms out by the Cape Verde Atlantic. But let's not talk any more about them because they are absolutely zero threat to land for a week. Let's talk about
well, actually,
Depression 19M.
Paulette is 3 days from Bermuda.
Paulette's 3 days from Bermuda? I thought it was going to stall in 3 days and, like, zigzag everywhere before zooming off.
We don't know. It doesn't look like. So it is a concern to Bermuda. But obviously the main threat right now is Tropical Depression 19, Tropical Storm Watch in effect for part of the Florida coast. I think it was from Jupiter Inlet to Ocean Reef in Florida. And at the moment, National Hurricane Center expecting a 70-mile-an-hour peak, and they acknowledge that that could rise as models start to get a better handle of this. Yeah.
I was just going to say that, the reason why NHC said that their forecast was potentially conservative was because that the models had not initialized, the tropical depression because it had just formed. So probably at the next advisory, we'll get some better model data and therefore probably a more accurate intensity forecast.
Now, some people were really pushing for the idea that it might have already become a tropical storm and that they were going to upgrade it at the intermediate advisory. They haven't. What are we thinking about that?
Well, one isolated ship report of 35-knot winds does not a TS make, unfortunately. Obviously there has to be some sort of consistency in regards to the 35-knot winds reading, and that's not something that we're exactly able to get. So, not going to be a tropical storm yet. quickly approaching Florida, so it's not looking very good to become a tropical storm. until it is in the Gulf.
And to follow up on what Bevan has mentioned, there was a ship report which was 42 miles away from the center of circulation that reported a wind speed of 35 knots. I'm looking at these ship reports as they've come in for the last hour, and I believe the same ship, now another ship has reported that is now 45 miles away and another 47 miles away. The one 47 miles away at a heading of 67 degrees, which I believe is the same ship, is only getting wind speeds of 28.9 knots. So it was a very isolated incident and reading. So it may have been a jumping of the gun to say it was a tropical storm at that point.
I agree.
Satellite appearance is improving though this evening, so chances seem decent that it would get to at least minimal tropical storm before reaching Florida. And I'm not sure what we're thinking about movement right now, but at the moment it's looking a little bit south, whether it might track through the northernmost keys.
Right. That southward motion, though, is the mid-level center moving in that direction. The lower level center, actually, I'm not sure exactly which direction that's moving. I think it's
looks like it's west motion on radar.
Yeah.
As it is,
but since the mid-level center and the lower level center are separated and kind of moving in different directions, that could mean that even and it is early in its lifetime, that could mean the centers could reform to a different location, which could cause changes pretty quickly.
Well, of course, yeah, the centers can reform, but as of right now, it means that the likelihood of any sort of really strange rapid intensification is more or less unlikely at this point because the centers are just decoupled, and you need to have a storm that's properly stacked if you're going to have a quick pop up to 50, 60 miles an hour. That doesn't look like it's going to happen here.
Sebastian says, what could Tallahassee get at worst? And thanks very much for supporting our work. What are we thinking about there?
Really can't imagine much more than just some tropical storm force winds, but that's probably, rather unlikely. But
yeah.
Honestly, it's a little too far to tell, I would say. Wait a few days and come back with that question in a few days, because I think that's one of a better idea.
And the wind field probabilities are quite large. So there's quite a large area that it could cover, and Tallahassee is currently only at about a 10% chance of receiving tropical storm conditions, and that's relatively low compared to other places right now.
Yeah. Tallahassee isn't necessarily highest on the impact list of the storm. It's not exactly a very large storm. But the model spread, as with every other storm other than Laura to this point in the season, has been very broad. So there's a lot more uncertainty in regards to where the storm is going to be going.
And Wyatt, you're watching this from Pensacola, which is a little bit higher up on the hit list potentially for this storm.
Oh yeah.
And what are your thoughts about over there?
Yeah, we're watching this very, very closely because Pensacola has not had a hurricane since Dennis of 2005. So this would be, if it does manage to strengthen into a hurricane and track a little bit more to the north, which is certainly a possibility according to some recent model runs. It would be pretty interesting to see what happens. I am expecting tropical storm conditions right now, at least some gusty winds and heavy rainfall at this point. But we are going to keep a very close eye on it here, and actually tomorrow we are going to go to the store and get some water bottles and start preparing now, so that way it's not too late. Yeah, and I would recommend anybody in the path to do the same, probably as early as tomorrow, so that way all the supplies are not out.
And Nelson, how about you in New Orleans?
Obviously, with the current NHC cone, it does look like it may make a landfall somewhere near me, whether that's in Mississippi, near Bay St. Louis, or closer to the city. We don't know yet, but the precautions actually are already in place from when Marco and Laura, the cones, kind of coalesced over my location. I still have multiple gallons of water. I haven't even put away stuff like the propane lantern, propane stove, and flashlights. So those are actually just sitting on the floor a few feet from me. So I am confident in my preparations already. But if you are not that confident, you need to go out, get it done, and not only things like water and canned food, but gas for your vehicles, food for your pets, and medicines for yourself and loved ones, because those are things that cannot be shipped in as quickly as water and canned food.
Totally. But are you thinking that it might go beyond the tropical storm strength as well, or?
I don't know enough. I've read the NHC's discussion, and it certainly could, but then again, it may not. It's one of those things. I don't know enough about atmospheric physics to put a guess one way or the other, but even if it were a minimal hurricane to a low-end Category 2, I'm still confident in the amount of supplies, and, I live in a raised house. I don't have much worry about flooding in this part of the city, so I feel fairly confident.
We're now looking at the model spread from Wyatt's, something that you picked out for us. So do you want to talk us through this?
Yes.
It's all different colors as well. I mean,
yeah. That is the model spread. As you can see, it's pretty. It's not the biggest model spread we've seen, but it's not really tightly compact either.
Are those colors separated by day? Are they?
I'm not 100% sure, actually. To be honest with you,
I think they might be, and the bottom one must be the extrapolated one because it's stupid.
Yes, that is the extrapolated one.
Yeah. So,
but
go ahead.
Model spread, as of right now, it looks like it could go anywhere, according to this, between near Destin, Florida, and south of Louisiana. Although it is looking like that the majority of the models do take it to about Mississippi.
It looks like
and I would say, yeah.
As of right now, the center of the model runs are pinpointing a landfall location somewhere, at least in the highest confidence right now, somewhere between Biloxi and Mobile.
Yeah.
But there are half the models have the storm hooking hard to the northeast after day 4, and some models just kind of have it drifting off to the west and very slowly moving to the west, very similar to what Marco did. So,
yeah.
After day 3, it's really not looking very confident after day 3.
Yes, and one concerning model I have seen is the Canadian run, the CMC model. That one had it. Let me see. I don't know if it's updated yet, but earlier it had it like doing something weird. It had it like going into like Mobile or something like that, and then kind of going back offshore.
No.
And then stalling for a day and then going north.
Oh my goodness. Well, some storms have done similar things to that, though.
So, yeah, and if that's the case, that would put me in Pensacola right under the gun from the heaviest rain and the eye wall and everything, So,
yeah, a similar storm that I can think of right away that moved very slowly over that area would have been Danny of 97.
George was also one that moved pretty slowly too.
Georges.
I think George. Yeah. Yeah, that one actually did personally affect my family. It flooded out my granny's house. That was on the river. It was bad over here, from what I've heard.
How bad was it? Like, how much feet did you get?
Well, I heard that there was a lot of rain. The river was flooded. They had a trailer on the river, and it pretty much destroyed everything they owned.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
And Devin, you had mentioned something earlier about the models and their initialization. They were off on the intensity, but do you agree with
Yes.
where they initialized the location?
Again, I haven't looked at, honestly, I haven't really looked at the initialization in regards to the location of the storm. I only looked at the initialization in regards to intensity. I'm like, oh, that's way off. Usually if the model runs, even the spaghetti runs across multiple global models and whatnot, usually those graphics all adjusted so they all look like they're initialized from the same position. So at least that's what RAL does. So it's usually really difficult to tell where exactly those models all initialized anyways.
Oh, I kind of have something to say. The old model runs that we were looking at was actually the 12Z run.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The 18Z, I didn't realize that the 18Z was out yet, and I'm looking at it, and that's quite a bit more spread. Let me see if I can get that to Nathan quickly.
Okay. In the meantime, Lucas is also here as well. You're in Texas. Any thoughts from over there?
I don't have any thoughts so far. The only thing I have to say is we are still going to keep an eye on this storm throughout the next couple of days just to make sure that we won't get any impacts from the storm. So it all depends on what's going to happen to this storm with no wind shear, just like Laura. I mean, you saw what happened to Laura. I hope that doesn't happen with Tropical Depression 19. So
now, some model indications suggesting that it will just clip the southern part of Louisiana and move on along towards the west, sort of near where Laura made landfall, though there really wouldn't be anything left of it by that point. So a bit like Marco, I suppose. So
yeah,
quite a wide array of possibilities here.
Yeah, and I think it depends on what a cold front that might come down does, because it does look like that frontal system may come down, and that could cause it to take that sharp curve to the north. And there's a lot of factors that go into it, depending on how fast the system moves, how strong the front is, how strong the system is. Lots of things, you know.
And we've been
so
cycling.
guys, if you're
Sorry.
Continue.
We've been cycling through the satellite imagery of these storms in the Atlantic. Just a reminder, the order of the storms on the screen here, the wide shot. So Tropical Depression 19 on the left-hand side off Florida. Paulette, which is in the center there and looking the strongest, because it is, at 65 miles per hour, headed for Bermuda in the end. Around 3 days away, and you can see the small island there towards the top left. Down there towards the bottom right of, southeast of Paulette is poor old Rene, which isn't looking very good at all, but a decent burst of convection just now. And further still towards the coast of Africa, you've got a very broad area of interest that could develop into one or maybe two tropical cyclones. It's so broad, but we're really looking out for 95L, which could become a significant long-track hurricane next week.
And also, if you look on satellite imagery, you can actually see the size of Invest 95L. It's enormous. I mean, it's pretty fitting for the Western Pacific, but...
Yes. And speaking of which, here is the Western Pacific, and you can see Tropical Depression 12W there, which is blowing up convection off the coast of central Japan. But there's not much to say regarding the Western Pacific, only that there could be a Philippine storm next week.
And the only thing about Tropical Depression 12W, it only has 35-mile-an-hour winds and 1,004 millibars, and we're just going to find out what's going to happen to this storm throughout the upcoming days.
And the answer will be not much. Eastern Pacific looking very quiet, apart from the immense amount of smoke over the western coast of the US. Obviously, the fire situation there, which is wrapping in through a lot of the subtropical weather patterns. You can see it dipping in at the top of the screen.
Oh my god, I can see it on the satellite imagery.
So that's that as well, just to give you a full roundup there. So this is now back to the latest imagery of Tropical Depression 19, blowing convection on the north by the looks of things over Bimini now, in the Bahamas, the closest point to Florida in the Bahamas. So let's take some questions, because loads came in and we've not got through any of them yet.
I want to point out a question quickly. I think it's a relatively important one. Somebody earlier asked, when is the earliest that rain bands and winds will arrive in Miami, Florida?
Tonight.
Yes. In fact, I'm looking at radar, and there's a few tiny showers that I think are associated with 19 are on the coast right now. Winds don't seem to be picking up that much right now. Only 9 miles per hour along the coast.
If you bear in mind that this is about a 45-minute loop, you can see how far the main bulk near the center there has traveled. Right over Bimini right now, and I would suggest that you're probably going to be waiting, considering bands are possibly getting up a little bit as well to its west. The Miami-Dade area could receive significant rain in about 2 or 3 hours.
Mm-hmm. And based on the looks of it, it looks like that conditions are going to deteriorate very quickly from this. Like I said, winds are only 9 miles per hour right now, and then they could spike up to potentially 40 miles per hour in the tropical storm watch area. And it looks like that might happen quickly, too.
Certainly a possibility. Comments about Devon still being on the moon. He was, wasn't he?
Really? Yeah, he was.
What are our expectations for rain and power outages in relation to this storm?
That is a really good question.
Honestly, I'm not sure. I would say, depending on where the storm tracks, could definitely impact where the areas that get impacted with power outages. But for like Southern Florida, I think at the moment, I don't think you should have to worry about power outages.
Florida Keys expecting maybe 4 inches, possibly isolated maximums up to 6.
Which isn't bad compared to what could be hitting in, the Panhandle area or Mississippi, Alabama.
So I have been keeping track of the chat for questions, and I have loads. We have some questions from some of our supporters. We have, could Paulette make landfall in Bermuda as a Category 2? You're absolutely right. And I heard from the National Hurricane Center that Paulette is actually going to make landfall in Bermuda as a Category 2. It's going to pass pretty closely to Bermuda and just shift to cooler waters up to the north.
I just want to say that it is way too early to say for sure if Paulette is going to make a direct landfall on Bermuda. It's very likely that Bermuda will get some sort of impacts. They're now at, I believe, above a 90% chance of tropical storm force winds. So, Bermuda could get, could definitely see some, significant
Bermuda
impacts and possibly, heavy rain and, storm surge and all that. But it's way too, soon. This is 3 days out from now, and it's really...
As it stands right now, I would expect this storm to pass Bermuda as a mid to high Category 2, and for Bermuda itself to get borderline hurricane winds.
There actually is a 40 to 50% chance of hurricane force winds in Bermuda, and it's also greater than 90 for at least tropical storm force winds there.
Still 3 days from now, could be a direct hit,
Mhm.
or it could fall short, and storm
Yeah.
could just fall on itself completely and not listen to the models at all. I mean, it has been.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing about this current sequence of tropical cyclones is that it's not very easy to predict because there are more variables than usual. Not only have you got potentially 6 active systems, 3 that have made it to depression status so far. That already compounds the situation. You've also got complex extratropical zones as well, and the high pressure system, which is really all over the place as well right now. So a very complex situation. So you never know what might happen with Paulette, but I don't see much stopping it from getting to significant hurricane status.
We got loads of questions in the chat. Could Tropical Depression 19 be a Category 1 or Cat 2? It all depends. I mean, if it doesn't like fight some wind shear and the warm waters, that's the main reason why. If it does battle wind shear, that's not going to happen.
Let's see if there's any more that I could get out here. Mainly very similar questions. Could it go south of Miami and hit the Keys? It could. I don't think it will at the moment, looking at the...
Yeah. And like I was talking about earlier, the mid-level and lower level center is decoupled, and if that were to happen, like the center reforms significantly to the south, it's a possibility, but I would say it's pretty unlikely at this time.
And how far do you think we will get to in the Greek alphabet?
Who
Oh my
knows?
God. Now we're talking about the Greek alphabet.
Well, I think
already.
most people are thinking that we will at this stage, much more likely than not, considering that we have
We're
only
already-
just passed the peak of hurricane season by 1 day, and we are 4 from the end of the list.
And we still have
I mean-
3 disturbances out there.
I'll just say this.
Yeah.
I'll just say that, there's been a lot of named storms this year. I think we're still at a record pace. So will that keep up is the question. And the thing that I want to address is, if this is going to be, if we're going to see more named storms than 2005. I think that's the question that people have been starting to ask. And I'll just say this. It will all depend on late season activity. If there are a lot of storms that form in like November, or even if we get, a couple December storms like we did in 2005, then yes, we absolutely could. But as of right now, who knows?
So some other
these storms will-
locations... Sorry. Other locations as well, Panama City, not too far from Pensacola, and obviously significantly affected by Michael. What do you think about that?
I'm sorry, did you say something?
Panama City?
Oh, I thought I heard Pensacola.
I did. It's not too far from you there.
Oh,
What
yeah,
What are
yeah,
your
yeah.
thoughts on the storm's potential impacts?
I
I
it
think
really
we caught
depends
you
on the
off
track
guard.
right. Yeah, I was reading for questions. I'm sorry,
Well,
but
if the track moves north, then you could be looking
Yes.
at hurricane conditions.
yeah, and that's what the HMON and HWARF is suggesting, that we could definitely have some hurricane force gusts here in Pensacola, and then
Please show them to us if you can. In the meantime, I'm going to bring up the key messages which has been posted. This is what we have right now. Heavy rainfall expected to produce isolated flash flooding over portions of central and southern Florida, and prolong existing minor river flooding in the Tampa Bay area. That might be an important point. Tropical storm conditions are possible tonight along the southeast Florida coast, where a tropical storm watch is in effect. And the system is forecast to strengthen to near hurricane intensity by early next week as it moves across the northeastern Gulf of Mexico. Dangerous impacts from storm surge, wind, and heavy rainfall will be possible along the Gulf Coast from the Florida Panhandle to southeastern Louisiana this weekend and early next week. Residents in these areas should monitor the progress of this system and updates to the forecast, as storm surge, tropical storm, or hurricane watches could be issued later tonight and Saturday. And you can see there as well the wind probability map on the bottom right hand side there, showing at least a moderate chance for tropical storm force winds. Only moderate though, that's interesting. I thought they'd be a bit higher than that.
What kind of question is this? From Zachary Chasteen. Will Sally be a category? What kind of number is that? I counted how many zeros that was, and that was 14 zeros.
Don't do it.
No.
Just don't get us started, please. I swear to Christ.
Alright then. Could 19L slow down before landfall? Are we talking about Florida landfall, or potentially Louisiana landfall, or both maybe?
If it were to be Louisiana, I could see it slowing down. But Florida, I'm not so sure.
I think it's already moving faster than projected right now.
Exactly.
So, landfall in Florida late tonight.
Yeah.
A very vague question there. How many storms will we get? Well, that's still anyone's guess, isn't it? With 2.5 months till the end of hurricane season.
If all the areas of interest form, then we would be basically completed. We would have completed through W, which means we'd be the next storm that would form
That's
up
not
would
good.
enter into Greeks.
We'll probably
Yeah.
do that in September. Well, might even happen this week.
Yeah.
Which is insane. Like half the season, just a little over half the season, and you're already through the list of names. Like that would be just insane.
But you know, I think it's going to happen this month, and by the time we get to the end of the season, well, we're ahead of, as long as we're ahead of 2005, this year has a chance of beating Zeta.
What?
What?
Look what Sebastian Weather Channel said in the chat.
I don't know, but we'll
He
move
said,
on.
Please don't swear to Christ. He is our Lord. I was just messing around, dude.
Okay.
Okay, so
We'll
wait,
move on
hold
swiftly.
up. For a real question from Exiel Rodriguez, there have been some indications reflected on the NHC cone from 2 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday that 19L will slow down. If any AL or panhandle landfall, would it be slow?
It's a yes. It probably would. You know. You're looking at it there. The track really slows down from Sunday through to Tuesday. So if there's going to be a landfall in places like the Panhandle or Alabama or even Mississippi, it's going to be a fairly slow one by the looks of things, unless something changes. Because bearing in mind that this is also a fairly large cone, so the distance uncertainty is a little bit greater as well, and that's what's really cramming in those forecast points together, even though it might not actually happen like that. Could it become a tropical storm before Florida? It definitely could. Is Tropical Storm Kyle a forgettable storm? It might be. I live in Louisiana. I'm getting worried that this could rapidly intensify and become a weaker Katrina. Is rapid intensification in the Gulf possible? It certainly is possible. I mean,
Yeah.
the K word
Yeah,
we try to
definitely
avoid, but
I mean, conditions do appear favorable-ish for rapid intensification. I mean, the Gulf waters are very warm, and I don't think there's going to be that much shear in place. I wouldn't say it's highly likely at this time, but I wouldn't 100% dismiss it as not going to happen.
I mean, Devin said it could be comparable to Katrina of 1999, so...
Well, Katrina of 1999 hit Nicaragua, I think, so throw that out the window. I'm sorry, Devin.
Yeah.
Horse Guy
Yeah,
said the track to Texas possible.
No, I don't think it... I think it's, like, very, very slim.
Yeah, those models we were
It would
showing
probably
earlier, although
limp along
although the
extremely
spread-
weak.
yeah, although the consensus was really wide, those were appearing to be the outliers. That's the Texas direction ones.
Now,
We
looking
have
at
a new
the
member.
radar
for tonight's
imagery.
stream.
Oh yes, we'll introduce them shortly. Looking at the radar imagery, we've got what appears to be an increasingly better defined rotation as far as I can see, and maybe he could tell us a little bit about it. Good evening, Thomas.
Good evening. So we're talking about the radar circulation on 19L, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I haven't had a chance to look at it too much, but from what I've seen, it seems like it does pretty obviously define what we've already known about the storm, which is that it has that closed center. Radar data has been also indicating that the odds that this is a tropical storm right now are quite low because the winds are higher above the surface, and I'm having a hard time finding 40 miles an hour from velocities that are quite far away. So I think tropical depression was the right call with that intermediate advisory. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. A tropical weather outlook will be coming out on the Facebook and Twitter here in about 2 to 3 minutes.
Excellent. I'm just wondering why something broke on the... We're running another stream right now on the main Force 13 live stream, the 24/7 stream, and you can watch that at any time. It just broke down for some reason, but it's back up and running now. In the meantime, what about St. George Island and the Mississippi coast?
Yeah, the Mississippi coast is certainly a possibility at this time.
Nelson?
And on the forecast track as it stands now, we've talked about it, the possibility of it recurving and being closer to Mobile or Biloxi. But on the current track, that Mississippi coast, there will be water forced up into that kind of curved area between Mobile Bay and the Chandelier Sound of Louisiana. Obviously, at some points it will be pulled out as the prevailing winds come from the north, but that's a place into Lake Maurepas and Lake Pontchartrain and all that area where water can pool. So there could be significant storm surge effects. I mean, we saw it from Tropical Storm Cristobal earlier in the year. The beaches in Gulfport, those beaches are good 75, 80 yards wide before you even get to the highway there, Highway 90, and the water was overtopping Highway 90 at that point. So even a very small storm can have significant impacts on the Mississippi coast just because of its shape.
That is one of the quite defining factors quite often during these storms, and its angle of attack as well.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be as bad based on the angle. You're not going to have the sustained push of water, but for such a weak storm as Cristobal to do what it did in terms of the surge, you have to be prepared for it anywhere, and certainly anywhere from Destin to the west. That's where you'll get a lot of water from the south for an extended period of time without the benefit of it being cleared.
Yeah.
So looking once again at the satellite imagery now, still that blow-up of convection over Bimini, and also a few smatterings of rain along the Florida Keys and Miami-Dade County as well. But most of the rainfall still well offshore, and not that much of it over the Bahamas either. It's mainly over the water in between.
And the storm is getting a lot more better organized. I mean, the structure is pretty decent. What are your thoughts?
It's hard to tell on the imagery whether the rotation appears to be getting better defined, but we're not talking about, there's no eye wall structure, there's nothing like that. The western side, there's barely anything there. It's got a long way to go if it's going to strengthen much. Also, a little note that there are some rain showers headed towards Key West right now as well. Let's see if we got some more questions. Rene is expected to make a loop and then go west. Can it hit TUS?
Where is TUS?
The US.
Oh.
The US.
I don't know.
Intriguing question. I doubt it. Real reason that I doubt it, and I'm going to say confidently, actually, it's going to be a no, is because it'll be dead well before it would be capable of doing that. It's been forecast to strengthen, hasn't become anywhere near as robust as it was supposed to, and it's going to be moving into some less than favorable conditions. For some reason, the NHC does have it surviving all 5 days, but I don't anticipate it even lasting through the entirety of their forecasted track.
On countless occasions, models have taken Rene, always in Paulette's shadow, and is already right now, dies off in various ways, either gets eaten up by Paulette early or late in the cycle, or it gets destroyed by Paulette's influence, or it gets destroyed by dry air, which is lingering just off its northeast as well, so it's not got many options.
Yeah. Here's a good question. Somebody asks, can the Gulf Stream help 19L?
Not much of a difference where it is right now. There might be a tiny bit, but I think it's all. It doesn't have a structure that it would really benefit from just at this moment. Maybe on the other side of Florida. Obviously not the Gulf Stream by that point, but into the Gulf of Mexico. Very warm waters, despite Laura's passage last month now, as it is. But I would imagine it's not going to get anywhere near Laura's strength, of course. But it could still become potentially a hurricane, maybe even a Category 2 before landfall, but we'll just have to see. That is speculation at this stage. Let's take some more questions. Rene, okay, that's an interesting question. The ATCF has a 1 millibar drop on 19L, so people really looking at all the numbers right now, down to 1,007 millibars. Not sure if that has much, there's much to read into with that. And Paulette, the satellite appearance, what do we think? Looks like it's facing quite a bit of shear.
Yeah.
And with Rene, though, damn, it is battling a ton of wind shear. I mean, you can tell from the look of it, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, what's gone?
Rene, I mean, you can tell from the look of Rene. I mean, it's almost gone. I mean, it's battling a ton of wind shear, and it's weakening like kind of steadily. And
yeah, it looks like it's barely holding on to tropical storm status at this point in time.
It's still at 40
Well,
miles
it's been
an
doing
hour,
that for days.
It's still stuck at 40 miles an hour, but the pressure is 1,004.
I mean, there is still quite a bit of convection over that over the system. And if there's a lower level circulation and a bunch of convection that's tropical in nature, it will mean that's a tropical cyclone for you, and it still looks like it has tropical characteristics. Maybe I could see maybe in a small area of 40-mile-an-hour winds within the heart of the convection, but not much more than that with Rene.
I'm trying to figure out what that means. I'm just trying to read some of these messages. Questions about... Nelson, for you probably. Does Lake Pontchartrain strengthen storms? Oh. Nelson's not currently here.
Well,
Oh gosh.
Now he is.
Conceivably, it can maintain them, but they aren't going to strengthen.
That's probably right. What is the general temperature in there? Compared to out in the Gulf?
Give me a chance and I can look it up, but it would be upper 70s, low 80s.
All right. Questions about Tampa. Will 19L hit there? Not
I'm
really.
gonna answer that. I'm from Tampa area, and I'm gonna tell you right now, no.
St. George Island, which is just about in the storm's cone for Sunday night, could still be a viable landfall area if the storm really sweeps east. I would say it's somewhat unlikely, but tropical storm conditions will probably be felt there. And let's see what else we have. Any thoughts on the area of interest behind 95L? That's obviously the next question that people will be asking themselves after this sequence has gone by. And models suggesting that one will develop, but will probably stay weak, that 95L will be the dominant storm of this sequence.
Never ending, it seems like.
I'm actually looking forward to what we're gonna do on this really large tropical disturbance that is already emerged off the coast of Africa and is a few hundred miles southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands. I'm actually looking forward on what's going to happen to this storm. I mean, it is such a large area.
Certainly is, but sometimes that could be a storm's undoing. And some people suggesting still some question marks about whether there's relocation on Tropical Depression 19. You do look at the satellite imagery and you can see a few more areas down there that are trying to get rotation to the south. Still, a dominant one is further north, it would be quite clear, but it is an interesting little feature right now.
Yeah, and if the center doesn't reform, eventually that convection is going to... Either convection is going to fire to the north of the center and keep it that way. It'll reform in that area of convection, or it'll wrap around the center of circulation once it becomes stronger. I think those are the three possible scenarios that could happen in the early life of 19.
So as you can see again on this radar imagery, not much of the rainfall moving inland yet, but see if we can get a close-up view of the Miami area, and you can see a few little storms, probably not even storms, just a few showers drifting through, moving from northeast, from Fort Lauderdale to southwest, and will eventually be over the Everglades, what's left of those showers. Very small things, the outer edges of this tropical depression, which could become a tropical storm tonight or overnight, but as it is right now,
it'll be named. If it does become a tropical storm, it'll be named Sally, and the other tropical disturbance that is a few hundred miles southwest of the Cabo Islands
could also be named Sally.
What? What?
It
What?
could also be named Sally if it's first.
It all depends.
Whichever storm it gets named first will be Sally, and then Teddy, and then Vicky and Wilfred.
Yep.
Alpha, beta, so on.
That's
so
enough.
Honestly, I want to ask: was there ever an X named Storm? I want to ask that.
In
They
the
have
Atlantic, no.
they have them
not
in the
in the
Eastern
Atlantic.
Pacific.
Okay.
There's been 3 of them in the Eastern Pacific, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen a question. I don't think we've talked about this one yet. What are our thoughts on the area of interest in the Gulf of Mexico?
There's one now.
Yeah, well, let's take a little
I
look.
don't know.
Yeah.
Matthew Jones says 2 Sallys. Oh my.
So, Gulf of Mexico right now, they're putting out a 30% chance in 5 days for an area that's not really formed yet, that they're
Yeah.
expecting in the Western Gulf, and will be off the coast of Texas. There could be something in this, but as it is right
Yes.
now,
I don't.
there is nothing visible to us.
Matthew just
All
said.
all I can tell you is
hold
that there has been.
So I think that the bands that they're talking about are the ones that are currently in Florida that are currently going offshore at the moment.
You think so?
So I think so, yeah, because my house got rained pretty heavily earlier today. I took a look at the system, and it looked like it would possibly be that disturbance that they're looking at, the area of interest.
Yeah.
It has
It was
the most
actually.
chance of development.
It was thundering earlier at my house too, here in Pensacola, from that disturbance, I believe.
Oh.
Yeah, you
So,
can
that
see
was
that there quite
quite
clearly,
interesting.
actually. Thunderstorms blowing up.
Yep,
Uh,
right over me.
I just saw a message in the chat that Matthew Jones said Vicky the babysitter.
Oh my goodness.
Matthew, stop. Please.
Nathan, going back to answer your question on the temperatures in Lake Pontchartrain, they are hard to gauge. It's a fairly big body of water, and the 2 main gauges for the lake are at the New Canal Lighthouse, which is at the lakefront in New Orleans, and the other one is on the western side of the lake. But they are taken at the shoreline, so there's no deep water, and the water doesn't get that deep. It's only about 12 to 18 feet deep at any one point. But near New Orleans, the current temperature is about 86 degrees. Further west, it's 83 degrees. And you do have to remember that's going to be biased warm because it's close to shore. So low 80s.
We have breaking news, I believe.
No, we don't.
Or sort of. It's
No. No, we don't.
Oh, we don't. Never mind. Never mind. But we did get messaged from Ethan about something.
Oh, what's this?
That's what I was trying to get to. So the ATCF has the 19L at 1,007 millibars and 30-mile-per-hour winds.
35.
30 knots. So
30
35
knots,
miles.
Yeah.
35 miles an hour.
So once again, guys, in these last few minutes of the stream, send some messages in the chat, and also after the stream will be the premiere of the track of Hurricane Margot, which is going to be premiering at 8 p.m. Central Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you guys want to check that out after the stream, go ahead and go to that premiere. And
Yeah, I almost forgot to mention that one, and it's Nana tomorrow, I think it is.
And NM just sent the link to the premiere. If you guys want to go to the link, just click it, and
Well,
there
there
you
we
go.
have it. In the next 5 days, could we have 4 named storms active? We certainly could. Is Rene a disappointment of a storm?
Oh
I
my
would
God,
say
Renee.
so.
You would say so?
Renee's useless. We have nothing to talk about
It's
Renee. We'll just let her dissipate.
Thoughts about 95L being a major? Looks like it. People, well, Dr. Creepy are questioning whether Nana was a hurricane or not. We've not done a deep analysis in that yet. We're sticking with the official numbers right now.
Oh my god.
And
is Rene Gonzalo's Saturn's sister?
What?
What are you guys
So-
even saying?
we got great questions today. And okay, I've just read that one. And could we have 5 simultaneous tropical cyclones next week if the 2 African areas of interest develop? Let's just say it's 2020 and anything can happen.
Well, it is possible, and that is...
It's been one hell of a year.
Yeah, that would be the record, or not the record, but it would tie the record for the most amount of tropical cyclones active at one point in the Atlantic Basin, I believe. I don't think there's ever been 6. I think 5's the record.
Yeah.
When was the last time we had 5 named storms active?
A long time ago, I think. I think it was a very long time ago, I believe. But the last time we had 4 named storms at once in the basin was only 2 years ago in 2018, where we had Florence, Helene, Isaac, and Joyce all active at once.
Remember it well. And just a reminder, note here, Tropical Depression 12W, there are gale warnings, gale advisories for the Itsu Islands of Japan, and that could extend towards the mainland in the next few hours. Decent convection, but not much in the way of wind speeds from this system. It looks like it's not going to get an official name.
And there's some cloud tops as well. You can actually see on the satellite imagery, there's some cloud tops over there. I mean,
Certainly
I can see from the satellite, it's like expanding.
A little bit. I wouldn't say it's doing it that much, honestly. The cloud tops are getting much shallower as they continue north.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to say quickly, in the last few minutes we have about 19L.
Here it is.
The 0Z runs, like the model spaghetti plots have come out. I don't know, Nathan, if you can have that up, but it looks like that it might be trying to come together a little bit more along the Mississippi coast with a few outliers elsewhere.
I wouldn't bet on it looking at what we've got on offer there.
Right, but it does look like it's trying to come a little bit more together, but I would say still...
Interestingly, there's a few that are curving it right east.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. We'll have to see what happens. I don't think that will happen, but then again, anything can happen. Yeah, now it's showing... Hold on one second. It looks like that it's going to be directly south of maybe Destin, Florida in about 48 hours at this point. So I would say at the 10 p.m. advisory, we could see tropical storm watches being issued for some of the Florida coast at least. But we will see.
Do you think 19L will be a disappointment?
What?
I don't think it's right to say. It could be very disappointing for some people who don't want a storm to come and visit them. Could the watches become warnings for Florida? Yes, as soon as it hits tropical storm status, you can bet those warnings will be out if it manages that before landfall.
Yeah.
And you know what's disappointing? Rene.
Oh dear. Well, on that note, that's pretty much it for now on this hour-long discussion of the latest tropics, mainly the Atlantic. Where else would you expect this year? It's the place to be right now, and we'll have many more updates on everything that's going on from our team over the next few days as this system becomes the latest one to develop. We're of course on social media all the time, Force13 on Facebook and Twitter, such all in text, and you can also well, if you've not subscribed to us, that might be a good idea here as well, because we produce videos all the time, and our 24/7 live tracker, which is running now, and you can watch that along with the premiere of the Track of Marco, which is about to begin. From us here at Force 13 HQ and from my team, thanks very much for watching, and good night.